Okay, Jonny, chapter 8, why a framework alone won't fix your sales calls. Takes more than just having that framework. So where do most leaders get it wrong when they roll out a framework, any framework, but they neglect to address the why that drives it?
This is really important because we've talked a lot about introducing the framework and rolling it out. But just like if you think in your sales situations, just like your buyer has a deeper pain point they're trying to solve or a deeper why behind their purchase, organizations have a deeper why for why they're rolling the BridgeSelling Framework out too. And so it's really important to communicate the reason for it beyond, right? Maybe it is to fix close rates, or to shorten a sales cycle, or to have better customer service, or to lay a foundation where reps it's easier for them to do their job. Whatever the deeper why is, it's really important to communicate what that is when you roll out the framework. And what's the reason behind implementing this thing? And that way, it actually connects on the heart level with your reps and with your team. So it's important to connect those two.
Yeah, this idea of conviction is really at the core of what you're saying. And you actually outline 5 different convictions in this chapter of the book. You talk about making good tables, commitment, simplicity, caring deeply, and keeping the customer the hero. Which of these convictions do you see as the hardest for teams to adopt, and why?
Well, this was a fun chapter to write, and it's where I felt like I really opened up a little bit about some of the internal things that have shaped just my approach to life and business and sales. And they all live underneath the BridgeSelling Framework in some way or the other, right? They all influenced it in different ways. And so I'm hoping just for the reader watching or listening that one of those things resonated with you just like they all resonated with me, because I feel like they're so powerful. And I think the hardest one to stick to, if I had to answer your question, would be the simplicity. I say in the book, like, simplicity is a superpower. And a great coach of mine for years and different people have given feedback on the framework, it really comes back to simplicity is a superpower because it's speed of adoption, it's speed of understanding and learning and execution. And so simplicity, if you find yourself struggling with any of these 5 convictions I'd lay out, I think don't beat yourself up for struggling with simplicity because it's very hard to stick to it.
Yeah, for sure. Let's shift to leaders. They're listening to their team on sales calls. They're listening to these calls. We're going for adoption, right, and habit change. How can a leader tell when a rep is going through the motions, they're checking the boxes of following the bridge versus operating from real conviction? There is a sense of not just checking the box, but they have really bought in on the framework, the methodology, kind of the heart and soul behind it. How does that show up on calls?
Well, thinking through rolling out the BridgeSelling Framework, you're gonna have probably this amazing aha moment when you finish your assessment, and you're gonna be looking at all your baseline bridge scores, and you're gonna be like, oh my goodness, I just cracked the code to 10xing this company. Like, you might have that moment. Yep. And then you're gonna have this euphoric, like, creative moment where you build your bridge. And at least it's euphoric for me because I love it and I'm a nerd about it, right? I made it. But for even a sales leader where calls are kind of a mess right now, you're gonna make that bridge and it's gonna be like your baby, and you're gonna be so excited about it, and you're gonna come up with the lines for scoring and everything. And then what happens 3, 6, 9 months down the road? And maybe sales have exploded because you've implemented this, right? Like, that is what's gonna happen actually if you follow this and you roll it out. But then what you start to get at is, just because we're hitting our goals and just because we're back way over where we were a year ago, now all of a sudden you can be tempted, you get lulled back into the settling into mediocrity. And so what to look out for, this is the same for a rep as it is a leader. Just being okay with settling for subpar conversations again. The yellows don't bother you all that much on a bridge score, right? There's an example. A rep or leader who's not upset when they fall short, I think that's a good example of someone who might be being lulled back into mediocrity, and thinking of what's the vigor and the tenacity and the focus and the attention to detail that you brought to your rollout on scoring and the bridge score and executing the framework. Don't lose that. Keep that tenacity, keep that passion, keep the vigor of, we're gonna score greens and we're gonna do it exceptionally. And just because revenue is up through the roof does not mean we shouldn't take the same level of care and detail into our conversations, because at the end of the day, the conversation, we're talking with another human. That needs to be excellent because it's an opportunity to show up and care and build relationship and build trust and make somebody's day better. And just because revenue's high doesn't mean that should slip. So those are some things to look out for.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, one of the my favorite things about this chapter is you really did kind of pull the curtain back on some of the why behind why you care about what has become the bridge selling framework, but why you care about quality of conversation just on a human to human level when it comes to sales, that the reader, I think, can see you in that. And I think it's helpful to see sort of the deeper why behind it, and hopefully drive leaders to think about, okay, but what is their deeper why behind why this should matter for them and how they're doing this work and rolling out with their team. So I think that's fantastic. All right, so we're almost in the home stretch.
All right.
Let's head into chapter 9, where we're going to talk about your path to predictable revenue. See you there.
Let's go.